Hey guys, Dylan from the Geek Duo here, and today I'll be breaking down what we already know about RWBY Volume 9 based on what's been shown so far. Since we're now a week out from the official release of Episode 1 at the point of recording this, I've decided to take a look back at the two trailers, the sneak peek and the Chapter 1 clip that were released within the last year, and I'll try to put them into chronological order to try and figure out the story of the Ever After. In the sneak peek, that was the first thing released back in July of 2021, we see several scenes from the final battle through RWBY's POV before showing what happens to her when she's falling into the Ever After. This being that she's somehow been separated from Blake despite them dropping together, and she's somehow caught up with Neo, who was knocked off about 15 seconds before RWBY and Blake fell. We see that Neo immediately begins trying to grapple with RWBY, using her semblance to turn herself into Oscar, Yang, and Penny in an attempt to throw RWBY's focus off, and manages to get her in a chokehold before RWBY flips herself away to get some distance. And this is when they both fall through into the Ever After. Next is the beach area of the Ever After, seemingly only there to act as a starting point for our story. RWBY immediately wakes up and then walks into the jungle, away from all the... Now, this is the first scene out of the sneak peek, where we see in the first trailer that there will be another shot of a person waking up on this beach. I'm assuming it's a woman because of the dress, and that there's a secondary set of footprints next to her, meaning that there's two other people, one of whom does not match any of the characters we've seen that'll be on this beach eventually. We also know that somewhere on this beach, Crescent Rose landed from the end credits of Volume 8. Now, this beach area has a yellow tinted sky with two suns visible, one of which is smaller and circling the other, and it directly connects to the jungle part of the island, though we don't know if it connects to other segments of the island as well. Next up we have the jungle, which seems to be the setting for at least the majority of the first episode, and it seems there to introduce the general mechanics of the Ever After. That being that a person can't travel through it without an inhabitant as their guide, seen when RWBY tries to make her way to the cliff, but gets caught in a spatial loop over and over, passing the same shoebill and the same mouse on the rock. And it also shows that a person's emotions and or mental state has a physical effect on this world. When RWBY sits down, starts crying, the jungle gets a sudden rainstorm. But as soon as RWBY's distracted from her anguish by Little's ability to speak, the rain stops. It also introduces the fact that animals can talk. Now, this is where we see the only named character so far from the Ever After, that being Little the Mouse, who reveals that names in this place, at least in this jungle area, are given based on what a person or creature does, and that they come from a village located somewhere in this jungle, likely the same group of mice we see surrounding the captured Weiss and Blake. Don't know yet whether they are the ones who captured the girls or if they're attempting to free them. After Blake and Weiss are rescued from the vines, which appear to either be sentient on their own or they're being controlled by something, possibly the mouse village, they somehow meet up with Yang. It's unknown whether this is before or after the rescue, and they catch each other up on what has happened to each of them since they fell. RWBY meeting Little, Blake and Weiss being captured by the vines, and Yang having her prosthetic arm being taken away by a talking raccoon. And they also make a plan to head to the tree in the center of this island. There is also a shot of this beast creature in this area. This could simply be hunting them, or there could be an altercation like we see in a later area as well. The sky in this area is slightly more orange tinted than that of the beach, and it appears to be cloudier, though that could simply be just time passing. After the jungle, we have what I'm calling the Queen's Kingdom, this being the area containing the town full of toy people and the Porcelain Queen's castle. And this is where the protagonists are going to meet their first antagonist of this area, that being the Porcelain Queen herself. So we know that this is where Team RWBY meets the Cheshire Cat, and other than Yang, they meet the talking raccoon for the first time. Now, there has been some trailer trickery of this segment, because there's a part of the second trailer where it seems like the Cheshire Cat and Yang are talking to each other. However, we see that Yang, Weiss, and Blake have already been shrunken down and placed into RWBY's cloak at the point of Yang's line. Yet, we know from the ground that the Cheshire Cat is on that this is the path into Toy Town. And we see a scene of Yang full size in Toy Town. So there's been some scene manipulation there. As I said, we see a scene of Yang full-sized in the Toy Town, and she is fighting with a model soldier to get her arm back, likely having stolen it back from the raccoon creature and his peddling market stall. And there's also these shots from inside of the Queen's castle, which we know from the soldiers surrounding her that this is in the same area, that being this MC Escher-like stairwell with RWBY running in a spiral and the toy soldiers running down a pathway. The chess game with living pieces and the shrunken Weiss, Blake, and Yang being used on RWBY's side, and the Porcelain Queen flipping the chessboard and sending the shrunken girls flying. There's also the shots of the Queen's face cracking. This could be because she lost at the game, or she's accusing RWBY of cheating and her anger cracks her. And this shot of the trippy bell tower thing from the first trailer, which I correctly guessed that these structures are actually chess pieces. We see that this area has a green tinted sky and red colored trees and grass. The last segment that we know Team RWBY definitely travels to is the mushroom forest. It seems they're taking this path towards the tree. And this one is another hard to place area in terms of chronological scenes. So I'm basically going off of whether the girls are shrunken or not, with the pre-shrunken ones being before the floating market. That means that the girls visiting the location from Lindsay's teaser screenshot, that being the hideout looking place with all the science equipment, the glowing globe, and the bags of supplies, and the lily pad ride RWBY shares with the Cheshire Cat, are going to be some of the first events that we see in this area. I'm also going to place the scene of RWBY walking with the cat behind her on the line in this early section, because I wouldn't be surprised if these toys we see are lining up for the lily pad ride. Next for this section is the night market, and this has some interesting scenes, such as the beast creature finding them. We see Yang fighting it in the second trailer. This mysterious hat bird and jackalope rider, I'm still claiming that's a jackalope by the way, they show up at some point, possibly in the fight. And at one point, Weiss makes her way up to the flower on the top of the structure. This is from Kara's screenshot, though it's unclear as to whether she's normal size or still shrunken at this moment. We also have the shots of RWBY opening up a chest with an annoyed look on her face, and the shot of her with Penny's blade. I use air quotes because Penny's original swords did not look like that, and her maiden swords were magically created, so I don't see how they could exist after she died, even if they hadn't have all been shattered in the battle. But it's unclear as to whether these two scenes are from the hideout or at the night market, though my bet's on the latter. Lastly, we have the scene where RWBY encounters the hookah grasshopper, though I don't know where the rest of her team are at this moment, whether they're in her hood or this is after. It's very hard to tell. We don't get a clear shot of her. And the grasshopper, it's initially hiding under this pile of leaves and asking, "What are you?" And it's next seen in an unknown location with its pipe in one hand, a bundle of leaves in two of his other hands, and its body shifting colors. Likely it's blown its smoke into Ruby's face, causing her to start tripping, and this is when she enters the fog of despair, as I've been calling it. Now, this area has a dark blue tinted sky with what looks like stars, and it's got rainbow leaves, though the majority of them are a dark green blue color, which match the grass. It also has giant mushrooms growing both wildly and in planter boxes. Finally, I'm just going to rapid fire the other areas that only appear for one shot in the trailers, or there's no clear segment to assign them to. These being the forge, where we see the mysterious blacksmith lady in front of her wall of fire and the walls being lined with weapons. We have Neo's rock, a shot from both trailers, so it's an important scene with Neo bent over on her knees before looking up at someone or something with a pissed off expression. The second trailer shows that she turns into Ruby after looking up, and this is the only other time, other than in the episode 1 clip, that we see it rain in the Ever After. And again, it's because of someone's mental state. We have this bridge area, which is the location of both Barbara and Aaron's screenshot, and we also see Yang standing before a large gap in the middle of a rope bridge stretched over a pit full of clouds. This could well be a Indiana Jones thing where it looks like it's nothing, but if you take the step, it's just going to be solid ground still. And lastly, we have this shot of the night. This is the only time we see this character in any of the material that we've been given so far, and this could be in the forge, it could be in some story or vision, or it could be its completely own thing. There's no way to tell, but because this character is shown, obviously it's important. There you have it. That is everything that we've seen for RWBY Volume 9 so far, and it seems to tell a pretty linear story up to a point. Like, we see a recap of what happened at the end of Volume 8, Ruby falling into the Ever After, and then waking up. She travels through the jungle, meeting up with Little, and then being reunited with the rest of her team. They then make their way to the Queen's Domain area, where they first travel into the toy town. Yang manages to get her arm back from the raccoon, and then they have an altercation with the toy soldiers, resulting in Yang, Weiss, and Blake being shrunken down, likely due to them having weapons and raising them against the guards. But Ruby doesn't have Crescent Rose. We don't see her with it at any point in this trailer. She couldn't enter the battle, and so she wasn't shrunken down with them. She then goes to the Queen's Domain and pleads to get her friends unshrunk, and the Queen's like, okay, if you beat me in this game of chess, I'll let your friends go. And then something happens to piss off the Queen. She then flips the table, nullifying the game, and so Ruby and the girls have to make a quick escape from the castle while being chased by the soldiers. They then travel into the Mushroom Forest, led by the Cheshire Cat this time, where it first takes them to a little hideout, probably belonging to the girl who fell through the world, and then they make their way across the river into the night market, in hopes of finding the supplies to make an unshrinking potion themselves, which is probably why there was a separation funnel and all the timing equipment and everything in the hideout. And then it just cuts. That is the end point that we know of the story so far, traveling through 3 of the segments, and then we have nothing else after that. What happens after that? Do they get to the tree easily? Do they go to any other segments? Who do they meet along the way? No one knows. We'll just have to watch what happens after. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one.